Hello, my name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Women of Inspiration Boards, and this is the Women Driving Change panel, where we speak with women leading, inspiring, and motivating from diverse industries and backgrounds. Today, I have three extraordinary leaders with me. On the panel is Shirley Dare, who is the president and owner of Foamworks, Inc., Laura Didyk, who is the Vice President of Client Diversity with the BDC, and Suzie Yorke, CEO and founder of Love Good Fats. So welcome, ladies, to the Woman Driving Change panel. I know before we get started, I just want to say congratulations. Congratulations on contributing your leadership, your wisdom, to really inspire and support this next phase of leadership to drive change in all industries. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for an incredible initiative with the Women Driving Change book.
Well, coming out of the pandemic, when the world stopped, women just kept going. And so women were the most impacted. I'm sure we can all agree on that. But as we emerge from the pandemic, now it's important to keep the conversation going. And that's why this panel is so important, to learn from the wisdom of leaders from all industries. So Shirley, I'll have you do a little bit of a brief introduction for our guests that will be listening in and joining the panel today.
Okay, Shirley Dare. I run a company called Foamworks, Inc. in Calgary. My specialty is foam products. So I create styrofoam products for the construction industry mainly, film industry, commercial and retail outfits. So things like construction forms for bridges, concrete pours, film and theater, props, 3D signage, all of those kinds of things. I do want to mention that I have started this business from ground up. So I did not know what I was doing when I first started, but 21 years later, I'm way more confident. But starting a business in the construction industry was difficult, being that it was mainly male dominated. So there was lots to learn, a lot of barriers to overcome. But it's come now 21 years later. I'm in a very good place. I'm very comfortable and hoping that there will be more women that will do the same as I have.
Well, thank you so much, Shirley. And I have to say congratulations on the milestones. They always say that, it's never the next year. It takes a long time to build up that the path and the leadership and really carve your niche into these really unique industries, like you have built a whole new niche for Foamworks. So thank you so much. Laura Didyk, I'll have you share a little bit about yourself with our listeners and our viewers today.
Sure. So thank you for having me. So Shirley, 21 years, that's incredible. So congratulations, because I've been with the bank for 17 years. And although we have a lot more women entrepreneurs, I know 17 years ago, we didn't have as many as we do now. And we still have a long way to go, but I can't even imagine some of the challenges that you've seen. So congratulations on that. So my name is Laura Didyk. I am the Vice President of Client Diversity at BDC. And at BDC, diversity and inclusion are really at the core of our corporate values and our business strategy. And so I lead the bank's national approach to support our client diversity strategy to ensure that we, quite frankly, have more entrepreneurs in Canada that come from diverse backgrounds, because it's good for the economy and it's good for everybody. So I lead our strategy that are working with women entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs, Indigenous, LGBTQ plus members, veterans, persons living with disabilities, newcomers. And we really, we reach out to them realizing that they have additional challenges. They don't face as easy as a road, and they are underserved when it comes to financing, and when it comes to business advisory services, and when it comes to networks and connections, and helping them scale up and grow their business.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. And I do have to say, looking back into, when, you were starting your business, Shirley, all those many years ago, 20 years ago, it seems like we've come so much ahead, but still there is a brick ceiling, right? No matter how many resources and tools, the conversations, the support networks, the shared knowledge and leadership is certainly pure gold. So thank you so much for being on the panel today. We look forward to your participation in the discussion. And Suzie, pleasure to have you on the panel today.
Well, thank you. Suzie Yorke. I'm the founder, board member, and CEO. I'm just transitioning out as CEO to hand over the reins to Todd. Off a brand called Love Good Fats. So we could add ageism, I guess. At age 50, I started this brand on my kitchen table, which is just 4 years ago now. Two bars in 10 stores in Ontario, and then within just a little over 3 years, we sold $100 million off our Love Good Fats bars in Canada and the US. So it's been a very, very exciting rocket ship. I can relate to the themes. You know, I'm a female founder. I'm LGBT, so I'm a proud lesbian and mom of 2 kids, 2 step kids, and I have my partner by my side. It's not, you know, it's not easy to start a brand, start a food brand in Canada. It's pretty hard to get the scale, to get the volume, and then to get funding and get support and get, you know, the right team members, etc. So I'm very pleased to be speaking today and to share a little bit of what I've learned. I've been fortunate that we scaled a lot and quickly, and we have the benefit of revenue. So that helped us, but it still wasn't an easy journey, and it's a pretty tough journey out there for female founders and diversity founders. So I want to do what I can to give back.
Well, congratulations. I think the word unicorn comes to mind when I think about you and what you've accomplished in such a short amount of time. And rocket. A unicorn on a rocket is really what it comes to mind. So congratulations. And also thank you for your commitment to pay it forward and to share your leadership, because that's certainly so important, is once you have achieved success, is to pay it forward and help others rise. So you're a huge advocate, Suzie, there. So we're super to have you part of the panel today. So I'm going to jump right in, and with our first question for the panel is, we talk about breaking the glass ceiling, and I have said I really do believe it's a brick ceiling still. We have a lot of work left to do. So Shirley, how do you feel that we can take action to drive change and raise the bar for all women?
Well, I think there has to be conversations, and obviously platforms such as this helps an awful lot to educate people out there. But we as women have to support and encourage other women. I think that's certainly number one. I will always buy from women. I will always help other women. And for me, learning from ground up, I only had basically men to learn from. That was a struggle. So it was pretty well, I'm on my own. And so now I know if I hire women, I'm going to help them. And that's, I think, is one of the big key issues to getting more women motivated to start their own businesses, to look at higher positions, to strive a little deeper and a little higher. So hopefully, educating everyone, supporting each other, that'll help.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Shirley. And Laura, how do you feel that we can take action to drive change and raise the bar for all women?
Well, I think we're doing that right here today. I mean, I think it's things like this that will help, because I agree with Shirley, is that we need to be role models. And Monica, I mean, you're an entrepreneur yourself, and by starting with the book and highlighting all the role models, I think is very important, because, you can't be what you can't see. And I think that's so important, is those stories. And then they, and they didn't, like to Shirley's point, they didn't come easy for all of us. I mean, everyone has challenges, no matter what gender you are, but it's knowing that we all have each other's back. And, the old saying that it takes a village, and I think it does take a village, and we need to support each other, and we need to encourage each other, and we need to encourage confidence in each other, because all of us at one time are full of self-doubt when doing something, and it's taking, I mean, I have two daughters, one in university and one just going into university, and it's showing them and helping lift them up and saying, you know what, it's going to be tough and there's going to be challenges, but we're all around you to help lift you up. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's encouraging and it's supporting, like to Shirley's point, with your wallet and voting with your wallet, making sure that we purchase from women entrepreneurs, make sure that we help promote women entrepreneurs and their products and services, because sometimes they're not very good at promoting themselves, and make sure that we offer help and just say, hey, what do you need? How can I help you? It can be time. It could be through promotion. It could be in helping with their kids and things like that. And I think that's very important.
And I love what you've said about you can't be what you cannot see, and that is so critical. It boosts confidence for not only the person that's sort of in that role model position, because it does come back, but it also elevates confidence in those that are around. The ripple effect is huge. We have no idea sometimes the spread and the magnitude, which I'm sure, Suzie, you might have a little bit of a taste to, just seeing the ripple effect that you've sort of experienced over the past 4 years. So tell us, how do you feel that women can drive change to raise the bar for all women?
Well, it's definitely a multifaceted approach. I mean, I've been in business for 30 years now. I started right out of engineering school, which was it was and still is heavily male dominated. We were only 11 women in my class. I went to Procter & Gamble, a highly reputed business organization, and then PepsiCo, which, tended to have more men in senior management roles. And then, Heinz, Conagra, et cetera. So many, of these organizations, I was the only woman or one out of two women at the table. And then I had a young daughter, so I was, leaving at 4:45, and a lot of business decisions were being made at 6:30. So there's been a lot of evolution. A lot of the larger companies have put in diversity programs in place, and thankfully for that, that needs to continue to happen. Diversity, same thing. I've been out and proud since 35, but now I have a platform with the brand to really celebrate and make a big splash. We led the way with Love Good Fats. I went to every single large retailer in Canada and said, I'm a small brand compared to these multinationals, but I want the multinationals to look at us and say, wow, Love Good Fats has a palette and a Love is Love and a pride flag in the front of every single of these big stores. Why are the stores not having celebration of diversity in June, July, August? And then guess what? By third summer, there's a lot more pride in the front of the stores. And we've been hit by COVID, but these are the small little things that a small little one brand can help shift multinationals, hopefully making more of a priority to share the message. It starts in school. My daughter's at McGill in business school, and she's taking tons of classes, and I'm kind of telling her about my life experiences, and she's like, I know, Mommy, we learned about it. Like it was real. And glass, brick, etc. It's still very tough. The reality is when you're in front of a potential investor and you're asking for money, we've done 5 rounds, so I've met 200 potential investors. We have 130 investors that have handed over their money and said, Suzie, go drive value with this. They're really evaluating yourself, the founder, and then everything else. And we are in a world where women still, like, there's a world that's still not equal playing field in terms of communication and how you say things and what it means and how it comes across and your energy and your tone and your connections. And it's just a reality of the men-women dynamic in business in many industries. So it is tough. You're sitting at the table. We get about 5% of all of the VC money. which is miniature because women entrepreneurs are over 50% of the mix. And you're having to kind of convince an audience, which often will have blue suits. And the odds are against you because 95% of their money will go to the gentlemen that have the blue suits, not yourself, not the women. So what BDC is doing is really key, and what EDC is doing, who funded us, what a lot of the larger companies and some of the VCs are trying to do really. And then, of course, District Ventures, Arlene Dickinson, trying to just support women entrepreneurs because we have a lot of the good ideas and the insights. We understand the consumer. We know how to collaborate. We know how to bring teams together. We know how to bring ideas to life. We just need a little bit of help on the financing and often a little bit of connections and network to get that kind of one or two good pieces of luck that open up doors that change the game.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Women seen, heard, and valued is definitely at the forefront for us. Shirley, why is it so important to recognize the achievements of women? We have to work so hard for every single thing that we do. Why is it so important that we take time to celebrate and recognize?
Well, we as women don't pat ourselves on the back enough, and we need to do that. So recognizing achievements, not only our own achievements, but those of others, is going to help boost our confidence. It'll motivate us to help others. It'll motivate us to move forward, take some risks, challenge us. So I think those are all really important things. I, as well as Laura and Suzie and yourself, Monica, have struggled in many different ways. I have 2 children. I'm a single mom. I'm also a minority. So these were not easy roads at the beginning. And it certainly is getting better, but there's ups and downs. And our children are going to see those ups and downs as we maneuver through them. So we need to have that collaborative effort, I guess, to get everyone on board to understand that we need an opportunity as much as our male counterparts do.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And Laura, as a champion for women, why is it so important that we take time to celebrate those achievements and recognize women?
Well, I always say that women have the busiest life in the world, and especially women entrepreneurs. I mean, they're moms, they own businesses, they have often a team around them at work. The studies have shown that they still do take on more of the household management than often their partners do, and I just don't know how you all do it. And actually right now I want to recognize, Shirley, 21 years in business is unbelievable. Suzie, 100 million in 4 years. I can't even imagine how quickly your head must still be spinning. I can't even imagine it. And a mom, it's unbelievable. And Monica, to have the vision of the book and to make that come to life is unbelievable. And I know that all 3 of you probably don't talk about it yourself enough. You're probably like all women entrepreneurs, that you don't stand on your podium and go, you know what, I am good and I have done good and I'm a role model for other women and other girls. And I think we all need to collectively, going back to the first question, we all need to collectively do that for each other, because it's so important that young women coming up see all of the 3 success stories and go, wow, like it is possible. It is possible to be a mom. It is possible to be a partner and to do the home life. It is possible to have hobbies and to own a business and to advance my career and to get an education. More than 50% of students entering university now are girls and women. That's unbelievable, right? We never saw when Suzie and Shirley and I, from I think the same vintage, went to university, that wasn't. And Suzie, to your point, I can't believe you're in engineering and there's only 11 girls. My oldest daughter is in engineering now, and it's 20% of the faculty is engineering, which is unbelievable compared to the 11 that you had, but still not enough, right? Not enough. I asked that and I thought, I was hoping it would be closer to 50%.
Yeah.
So still a long way to go, and we need to work together to celebrate everyone's successes.
Beautiful. Well said, Laura. And yes, I couldn't believe more in celebrating the successes. And that's my next question is why is it so hard for women to do that? So we're going to circle back and talk about why it's so hard, because there's a lot of conversation around that. Before we do, though, Suzie, why is it so important to recognize and celebrate the achievements of women?
Yeah, and I'll echo what Shirley and Laura said, but essentially, showing that it can be done. And often, you just need a little push. And when I was kind of starting off, like I really didn't believe in myself. I had my PowerPoint and my idea, and I would go from networking meeting, and I was doing consulting. So I was like, oh, I can kind of help with your branding and positioning. Oh, by the way, I have this idea. And I didn't really believe in the idea. And then every person I met was like, whoa, I want to talk about your idea, and your idea is big. And by the end of the meeting was like, whoa, wait, like, how can I help you? How can I help you? And so I think I had to build up that whole kind of belief in myself by just hearing myself pitch over 200 times. And that maybe by then I started believing it. But, sharing the successes makes a big difference. Whether when I was doing Ironman, I would have a bad day, and then suddenly I would kind of, be reminded by my buddies going out to do a run, or there's this other buddy and this other friend who's had a great swim. Like sometimes we're all humans, and you just need a little bit of awareness to remind yourself to kind of move you along, and to have so many successful women that, it starts with one step at a time. And the advice that Arlene gave me that stuck with me was just start. And for many women, I was 50 and I was like, oh, like it's safe on my dining room table to say I have an idea, but no, like I gotta just, okay, well now I'm going to start. So what are the first steps, second steps, third steps? And then suddenly, like training for a marathon, you're like, what? I can do this, right? Yeah, you can, you put the steps in front. And the same with a business idea. Now, we need the resources. So we want to get the word out to be inspiring so that, hundreds of thousands of other women start their own brand ideas. But then we need the support system, because that'll make a big difference, because it's going to get hard and you're going to get knocked down. And the more support you have, the more you can kind of get back up and kind of get it through to where you need to be, so it's a sustainable idea and you get through the tough patches.
Right.
So marketing and finances, you need both. And it's like a chicken and the egg most of the time, but you're right. It's taking that first step to get out there and believing in yourself. And that's kind of where I'd like to go with my next question. That's a hot topic for most women. According to a recent review, 75% of women experience imposter syndrome. At some point in their career, it manifests itself in self-doubt or fear of success or failure. And this is regardless of the level of success. So Shirley, my first question is, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if you have, how have you overcome it?
Well, I guess we've all doubted ourselves. It's difficult to believe whether you can do something or not when you have never done it. And you may want to research and do all of that, but until you take that step forward, like Suzie said, you're never going to know. So it's making sure that you believe in yourself, you have enough confidence to take that first step and move forward. And I think that's what's going to drive you to take more risks and challenge yourself.
I have to agree that failure, that F word, once you go down that road and then you dust yourself off again, you're like, aha, that was easy, right? And you forget about the hard work and then you just pick up and go on. So thank you so much, Shirley, for that. Laura, how about yourself? Have you ever experienced the imposter syndrome? And if you have, how have you overcome it?
Well, I think, I mean, we're all full of self-doubt at certain times in our life and with certain things. Obviously, I don't care which gender you are. I think, you know, all genders do. I think that's human nature. I think generally that men, though, are maybe better at faking it till they make it, as we say, whereas women, that self-doubt then cripples us. You know, we just, like, to Shirley and Susie's point, we just don't do it, and it's taking that first step. And I think, Monica, you talked about failure. I think it's knowing that failure isn't necessarily the end, and it's a learning opportunity, and that you can pick yourself up. And not only that, but there's a group around you, there's a crowd around you that want you to succeed, and will all pick you up and help you along. And I think that's really important, that we need to help each other. So obviously, I mean, I've had self-doubt in the past many times, and I still do. I mean, every day, or not every day, but, you know, there's certain things, and you know, I try to just remind yourself, you know what's the worst that can happen, and, you know, I got this, you know, you can do it. So there's self-talk, I think, is important. Self-promotion.
Well, I have to say that all of the conversations that we're having here today give our listeners permission to embrace it, to embrace those feelings and welcome them, because they're not alone. And I think that's the beauty of these conversations today. So Suzie, you know, with all of this massive growth and, you know, like this rocket ship in the past 4 years, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, well, the first 200 times I sat down with my little PowerPoint, I was faking it, right? Like, I literally, as I just chatted, like, I didn't believe that this was real, that I was really going to start my own company, even though I was pitching that this is what I'm going to do. Because it just seemed like such a, you know, like I'd lived in packaged goods. There's all these products on the shelves, but then suddenly this is my product, and it was actually called Susie's Good Fats too. So when I launched the first year and a couple of years, so I definitely, you know, was faking it, and that is kind of really key, the key skill. You know, you give it a shot. And for me, the big game changer was my daughter and I. You know, she was 18, 19, and I was taking a lot of my our life savings. I have my son also, and she said, "Mommy, you know," she had been accepted to business school already, and she said, "What's the worst going to happen? We're going to live in an apartment, right? Like, we can," because I still had a mortgage and I had a house, so I had assets. Like, the worst that can happen is, you know, it doesn't work out, like many startups, and we wind up living in an apartment for a while instead of, you know, and maybe I'll have to work till I'm 80 or something. So we kind of work that through. And the other theme that's really important is, you know, the women are we're really hard on ourselves. You know, we say sorry for everything all the time. We're sorry. Like, we, you know, something happens in a meeting and we're sorry, even though it might be, you know, a male gentleman who should be apologizing. No, we're sorry for everything, you know, opening up the doors and this and that. So we're very kind of apologetic, and we also can tend to err more on the negatives versus kind of faking it. And it's a journey. And every brand that's had business and brand that's had success has had a lot of mini little bumps. Some, you know, many entrepreneurs have had companies actually like just close them down or even, you know, liquidate and then start another one. And it's all kind of part of the journey. The biggest learnings are of the misses. Like, if you go back and you look at, oh, you know, this kind of mistake happened, or this unfortunate thing, like for us, we couldn't make the bars. So I don't know if it was a mistake, but it was a big failure in production. That actually opened up the door to the 100 million. Without that happening, we wouldn't have changed co-packers. So I think part of the mindset a little bit is, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have, you know, every week, 3, 4, 5 things are going to happen that are going to be like, oh my goodness, some are going to be life risk to your company, and others are just going to be like, yikes, expensive or hard or tough or going to take time to recover, you're going to have every week, there's going to be things that will go sideways or can go sideways. And you just kind of have to, don't take it all personally and say, oh, I'm a failure. It's part of the process in entrepreneurship. And I think if you don't internalize it as much, the positive mantras, oh, I made this mistake, I messed up, and it's more about depersonalizing a little bit so that we don't do what often we tend to take everything on, then that'll allow you to kind of get through all those bumps, because there's going to be a lot. And I'm sure, Shirley, there continues to be bumps. I'm sure you get some emails and phone calls and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, what have I done?
Yeah, what happened? How do I solve this now?
Well, and just to add to that, Susie, you made a very good point. Mistakes, everybody makes mistakes, and you have to own those mistakes. Understand what you did. You analyze them. Some can be fixed. Some can just kind of not be fixed. But either way, there always is a solution one way or another. But learning from your mistakes is not a bad thing. Women hate to fail. Everybody hates to fail. But when you do make a mistake, you do have to get through that and move forward. Yeah.
So
and I've made a ton.
We need to celebrate the failures more, don't we? As a society, really, we do.
Yes.
And that actually is my next question, is that the growth really exists. The secret sauce is that growth that really exists when you're stretching outside of that comfort zone. So how do you get over that fear of trying something new, Shirley?
Well, I think the very first time you step into new shoes, it's always difficult. But once you get past that first level, you know what you're comfortable doing, you know what you can do. So it's a push. You're not going to grow unless you challenge yourself. You're not going to move forward unless you take those risks. So these are things that you need to do. And maybe you don't make that decision totally on your own. Maybe you need to collaborate with your friends or your family or coworkers. But either way, the only way to move forward is by challenging yourself.
Beautiful. And Laura, stepping outside of your comfort zone, that's where the growth, that's where it all begins. How do you get over the fear of trying something new?
Well, similar to Shirley, I think I know in my heart that that's how I'll grow as an individual, professionally and personally. And I want to be a role model for my two daughters, so they push themselves out of their comfort zone. And so I make sure that I include them in knowing that, this is something that I'm not necessarily comfortable with, and that I know that they and my husband has my back, and the incredible team I work with professionally have my back if it doesn't work out. And that, we're a team, and I'm pushing myself out so I can grow, but they're there to support me. And I let them support me. I mean, so many times as women, we sometimes don't let people support us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important, is that we open ourselves up and be vulnerable.
Beautiful. That ask for help is so important. There's vulnerability in there that is just so raw, and that's when the door's open, is when you ask for it. Ask for the help. Mm-hmm. And Suzie, how about yourself? You've been in a constant state of, operating outside of your comfort zone. How do you get over that fear?
Yeah, so asking for help is what I've done nonstop. 3-4 years ago, I was on LinkedIn, help, I'm doing an RFP, I need a kitchen, I need, packaging, I need this and that. But I think practically speaking, I've been in a constant kind of world of unknown and insecurity, and I kind of carry that nervousness inside. So I've had IBS for 25 years, so I kind of act cool, but all of my stress and my internal insecurity goes in my belly, and it reflects in like, oh, I'm miserable because I'm carrying all my stress and I'm bloated. And thankfully eating keto and low carb has really helped both my blood pressure and my tummy. So I think there's practical things that I would do. I'm also on the autism spectrum, so I've been diagnosed later in life. So, knowing yourself a little bit in terms of what will work, but I had to do a lot of really practical techniques. I did yoga every day for 5 years. I'm just kind of now out of it for the last 10 months, but I'll get back. But really practical, I'm preparing for a big VC presentation. I'm flying to Bentonville to meet Walmart. I'm preparing for an investor meeting, a board meeting, an annual general meeting with our finance group, with our accounting, big stuff that I've never done before. All of these things were new. Raising money was new. We had legal things, big stuff, and they're all livelihood of the brand and the company, big stuff, right? So I would work through what could go wrong, and I would really start kind of early on, really just, I have a meeting that I'm preparing for. I'm preparing for it, and I have a checklist. I go for my run. I'm rehearsing, meeting objective, flow. I'm thinking it through. So by the time I get to that big scary thing, I've done enough preparation that it's calmed my nerves. I'm still, nervous. But I've worked through what the worst could be, and I try not to kind of, bomb the meeting. And I'm okay with the worst, because usually, okay, you can survive the worst, even if it's pretty bad. And that's very practically what's helped me, because, you have to have techniques to be able to put things in buckets. And at one point I had 7 big things that were going wrong, right? Okay, well, I had 7 buckets because I couldn't just handle a whole gray world of things. So I had to just okay, I'm going to tackle this bucket, this bucket, this bucket. So you have to have your tricks and your techniques to be able to handle everything.
And your team of support around you is critical.
Yeah.
And that is our final question, ladies. And we talk about the role of our allies, and really how, allies at home or the workplace, in our networks is critical. So Shirley, why is it so important for our allies to be part of the conversation to help and support women to succeed?
Well, certainly, when I first started the construction industry, I was, and I still am actually, the only female entrepreneur in this industry. So there are other women that work in it, but not as, a leader. So when I first started in the construction industry, it was literally all men. It was me in a boardroom with all men. And it took a lot of work to get 1 or 2 male members to be on my side, to believe in me. But I had to, first of all, believe in myself. I had to believe that I could do it. So I had to do some work on myself, and I had to get their trust and respect. So I had to work way harder than if I was a man, for sure. I had to make sure that my deadlines were met. I had to make sure the product was flawless. I had to make sure all my ducks were in a row. And once you get past one hurdle and you get one male on your side, it's a domino effect. Word gets out. And you have to keep your true value. You have to keep your beliefs in your value. You have to keep that and maintain the good products and the customer service and all of that. You can't lose sight of all of that. So by doing that, the more and more support you get from the male industry, the more and more I was accepted. And it took 10, 12 years, mind you. It wasn't an easy road. But once we got past that, it was much easier. And then I, in turn, can share that with any other women that I hire, I work with. I now see way more women in the construction industry and engineering, architecture, all of that. So it is slow, but it is working, and we just need to kind of fast forward it a little bit more. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Shirley. I couldn't agree more with you. And I know, Suzie, we've got a hard stop here in just a couple of minutes. You've got another interview that you're going to jump onto, but a quick answer before we end. And I just want to thank all of our panelists today. Suzie, why is it so important for male allyships?
Yeah, it's so key to have that right support, because the doors will open just a little bit more, and then you'll get just a little bit more opportunities. And it's also a little bit of diversity. So different ways to kind of tackle the same problem, open a few more doors, have a different approach. I'm surrounded by men supporters. The board, advisors, investors, surrounded by many, and it's made a big difference. That being said, I want to do my part to get more women out there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Suzie. It's been great to have your perspective and your leadership part of the panel today. And Laura, I'd just love to be able to have your insight on to the role of our allies being part of the conversation. I know your role as client diversity for BDC now is really inclusive in the direction of the company. So it does include our allies.
Yeah, I think, diversity in general is everywhere, is important. So, all genders, Indigenous, people of color. It's important, age diversity, experience diversity. It's important that we have diversity, and that because it just brings more value to any organization and better ideas and more innovation. And so, it's also important in women in the workforce to have those role models at home. So with our kids and the support at home. And so, I couldn't be where I am if I didn't have a really supportive husband who I consider to be an ally, who has helped me in my career, because it's again, coming back to the first question, it takes a village. So I just think it's so important for us to have diversity everywhere, with genders and with everything.
Well, I thank you so much, Laura and Shirley and Suzie, for your wealth of knowledge and your leadership wisdom that you shared on the Women Driving Change panel today. I can't even imagine somebody listening and taking all of the information, because that is how we will drive change, is by keeping the awareness open and by paying it forward to help another woman on her journey. So thank you so much, Shirley, Laura, and Suzie, for being a part of this Women Driving Change panel. Any final remarks, Shirley?
Other than, I think the book is also a huge motivator, Monica. Just reading stories from all the other women, you get a little tidbit from each story. And that certainly has motivated me. So thank you for that, and thank you for having me on board.
You're welcome. And Laura, any final last words?
No, just to echo Shirley's comments, Monica, you've been a visionary yourself. I know that this was a dream, and it's come true. And I think you've brought us all along and helped all of us in doing that. So thank you and congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. And again, and it's a bestseller. So we did this together, ladies. And so that's what's really important, is believe in yourself, believe in the vision, and then rally the troops and make sure you have an amazing team of supporters around you. So thank you very much for your time today. And I look forward to continuing to drive change.
Thank you.
Thank you.